dreams blow up in the face? Ever have life not only hand you a lemon, but a lemon so rotted and moldy that you couldn't even try to make lemonade out of it? Ever been so broken that you don't know how you will get through the next few minutes, let alone hours and days and weeks, months ahead? Just breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Life is full of heartache and disappointment. Life hurts so much because we hope so much. We fall so far because we fly so high. So what should we do? Is there something wrong with our hope? Do we hope too much? Is the fault in us? We don't attain what we are capable of because we're just horrible excuses for humans. Let us not shy away from that brokenness, but in this Advent season, lean into it. Remain open and broken, that God might fill us. Let us pray. Lord, help us see your truth through Jesus Christ, who is the truth. Amen. Last week we heard another prophecy of the prophet Isaiah about a time when God would teach all people, not just Israel, about the ways of peace. They shall beat their swords into plowshares. We humans are powerful with our tools, but powerful to what end? And Isaiah's image of what the Messiah will bring, what the Christ will bring one day, is talking about a goal. Is it destruction? Is it continuing war? Continuing enmity between peoples for our own gain? Or is it to be turned, to be honed, to be fashioned for creativity and cultivation? Today we see a vision of how that possibly could happen and what it will look like. But it's hard to understand how broken Israel was at the time of Isaiah's writing. Israel, half of the people of God, had been taken away by Assyria. The other half, Judah, still held on. And everyone was thinking, just Judah can't fall. We saw on the map last week, Jerusalem, that holy city, the city of David, was in Judah. The city that the king was in, the rightful king in the line of David, was there. The temple of God was there. The house of God was there. They could not lose Jerusalem. They could not lose Judah. But this is what Isaiah is prophesying, that there will be a stump one day. This huge tree, this huge line of David that you hope in, that you love, that you celebrate, as the greatest leader your country has ever seen, will be cut down to a stump. Isaiah is prophesying a very dark time for God's people, a time when it seems that everything is lost, everything is broken, there is nothing left. Just a dead, hollowed out stump. I don't know if we can understand how bad they must have felt. I think back in 9/11 when towers fell, symbols of wealth and prosperity and power of the United States, but we weren't taken into exile. New York City itself was not burned to the ground. The White House wasn't touched. But this is what they will experience. This is what Isaiah is saying. A darkness is coming, a great darkness, where all is lost, but out of that lostness there will be hope. There will be a branch. There will be a sprout. Many of you might feel some of that lostness, depending on what side of the election you are on. You might feel that darkness. But their darkness was so much greater. All of us Christians will experience at one time in our life this kind of darkness. If there's anything to go on by those who have come before us, the great saints who have come before us, there is this common refrain that there is a darkness of the soul, a dark night of the soul that we all must go through. I loved being a young Christian. Everything seemed easy. Everything seemed fun. It was fun to read the Bible, fun to go to church, fun to celebrate with people. But it doesn't take long before you just hit this wall. And it's tough. And I don't have the feelings anymore. This happens in all of our relationships, but it does happen. As Christians, we just don't sense God's presence anymore. It seems dark and there is no more light. If you aren't there, or if you haven't experienced it, sorry to say, you will. So what do we do in those times? I'm not trying to get you depressed, but I guess in some ways I am. I want you to understand where Israel was at. We have to feel what they felt. We have to know that no matter how bad it is, it can get worse. It's worse than we ever could imagine. It isn't that whoever is in government is evil, it's that I find evil in myself. I can't get away from it. I can't move to Canada or whatever other, perfect country there is, because in my heart there is evil. We cry out, Lord, have mercy. We cry out, Lord, have mercy, because not only is the world broken, but I am broken. We see this beautiful picture of the wolf lying down with the lamb, and all of us love to think that we're lambs. All of us love to think that we're the innocent, that we're the righteous. It's a scary thing to look in the mirror, look in it well, and see that there's a little bit of wolf in us. As part of my ordination process, I had to do CPE, clinical pastoral education. I was a chaplain intern in a hospital. Very scary times for me, but I surround myself in a community that is not my skin color, not my ethnicity, not my culture. And I think, comfortable with that, but I didn't realize in the hospital of who I was presenting to people. There was one time where I was called to the ER, and they were having a problem with someone. They were coming down off of a certain high, but they were also in a very abusive situation. And I walked into that room, and just me being a male caused the woman who had been in an abusive situation to kind of recoil from me. And I was thinking, but I'm coming as a chaplain. I'm coming to show you God's love and to show you peace and safety, and yet but I looked like a wolf, like every other wolf. Once I was called, not on the request of the family, but on the nurse. The nurse was having a hard time drawing blood from an old African American woman. And they called me to sort of be a distraction, basically. The family wasn't looking forward to me come, but I came into that room as well, and it was just this super awkward situation. And later on, part of CPE is trying to say what went wrong, what went right, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, trying to just be aware of who we are, because none of us are really aware completely of who we are. And so I sat down, and my instructor was an African American woman, and two other women that were going along in this program with me were also. And I talked about what went wrong. Why was the situation so strange? And they said, well, it wasn't all that long ago that we were afraid that if you were a person of color and you went into a hospital, you weren't coming out. If you went into the hospital, there was such fear that those people that should be caring for you wouldn't care for you. And that you'd be hurt, that you'd come out worse or dead. And it was just something that I just had never, again, imagined. I think I'm a lamb, but I look like a wolf to others. I have to be aware of that, and I have to check myself, and I have to realize that even if I am as lamb as I can get, I've been raised in a wolf culture. I've been raised to benefit as one who looks in some ways like a wolf. Sin lurks, sin hides. We're those who think we're lambs but happen to be wolves. We think we're all as innocent as babes, but we also have some venom. We can't shake it. Sin lurks. Sin hides. It's only by God's grace that we can even become aware of it so that we might run to God and be forgiven. That we might receive God's Spirit to somehow live in a different way. Because we're helpless on our own. The Israelites, they worried. How would they survive the all-encompassing exile from everything they knew and loved? And Isaiah's words promise that no matter how ugly it gets, no matter how low the stump gets cut, there is hope. No matter how it looks like the line of David has ended, there will be a shoot, that tiny, humble, weak newness and life will come, a new David. This shoot, this mere branch will grow, and the Spirit of God will rest on him with wisdom, understanding, counsel, might, knowledge, and the fear of the Lord. What a leader would that be? Yes, Israel, it's going to get dark, but there is one that is coming, the perfect leader. We just went through an election. Wouldn't you wish to just see two of these things in one of our leaders? This is the entire package of a leader who will come and will make the world right. Everything will be destroyed, but a leader is coming who is going to bring this. We talked about this a little bit on small group on Friday, how important judgment is. We don't like that word judgment, but here in this passage as well as last week, yes, God is coming to make all things new. Through Jesus Christ, through Advent, we're celebrating that, anticipating that, but judgment is there. There needs to be clarity before there can be peace. There needs to be justice before true peace can be had. So one is coming who will not judge prematurely, not judge based on appearances, but this shoot from Jesse will judge for the ones who are so poor they can't get a fair hearing, so meek that they don't stand up for themselves. We all too often look for an earthly leader to have these qualities, and we often project these qualities upon them, and we are often disappointed. They don't live up to this glorious height. They fall. They are as broken as we are, we find out, but there is one who is coming, and all the animosity, all the enmity that exists will be gone. Jesus shows us a way forward. I think if there's anything that we can learn from Jesus, there is a way forward where you can be completely a lamb and bring peace, right? You can be completely a lamb with not an inch, not a scent, not a whiff of being a wolf. Jesus shows us there is a way of peace. The wolf shall live with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the kid. The calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. It's kind of embarrassing the other day. I got a very good parking spot in the nearby park so that I could go and pick up Nathan and then take Nathan home from school. I said I was a little bit early. I found out that's a mistake to be early because you do get a good parking spot. There's only one exit, and so you have to wait. So I got Nathan, I got back in the car, and we're ready to go, and there's this line, and I turn on my lights, and I try to creep out. No one lets me in. My voice said, "Dad, beep at them. Beep at them. Let them know you want to come in." I'm like, no, it's not good. It's not good to beep. Let's try to be patient. Maybe someone will be nice. We wait and wait. Oh, it's been so long. It's been so many minutes. Oh, yeah, guys, okay. Maybe someone will be nice. No one's nice. You have to wait until everyone gets out of the parking lot, and then we can finally go. And I said, and I tried to, as I apply last week's passage, turning swords into plowshares, I said, maybe I can make this into a teachable moment. So I say, let's try to be nice to someone else. Now that we're in line, we can allow someone else. We felt how bad it feels when people aren't nice to us. So why don't we be nice to others? And then we don't get the opportunity. We get to the point where we could have let someone out, and there's no one else to let out. We can't do this. But then the next day it goes back to the same thing, and I'm in the car and everything, and I blow by that place where I could have let someone in. And Nathan said, "You had a chance today. you could have been nice. You could have let them in." And I said, "Yeah, I could have." And I didn't. A little child shall lead them. I'm trying, but I've got that wolf in me that I just can't shake. That sword against sword. It was brutal to see. I see in them an innocence I've lost, and I see in them the wolf I am raising them to be, because I'm a wolf. It's frightening. But it continues. The bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the adder's den. Can we believe that? Can we see that? Can we be a church that starts living that out now? It seems so lofty, so out of sight. But if that could happen, how would the world not look at us and understand that Jesus is Lord? That Jesus reigns and rules? That wolves and lambs could live together? Shouldn't this be that place of mending those broken relationships? It's hard though. It takes the wolves in our congregations to shut their mouths, to take their aggression down. It takes the meek lambs to somehow step up and have the courage to lie down next to wolves. It's hard. But to let that happen, to begin to let that happen, we have to look inside and understand our own heart. So this morning, there's a couple of questions I leave you with. Where do you feel cut off? We see that there's this stump where it seems like hope is lost, that there's no way forward. There's no hope. Where in your life do you feel cut off? And in that, where do you see some hope coming? Where do you see new life sprouting in the midst of that? We're going to look into that much more next week as we look at how God brings life out of the deserts. But the bigger question, I think, for today in this passage is, where are you, a wolf? Full of aggression and anger. Where do you need to shut your mouth? To slow down, to allow others to speak, others to be heard? How can you lay down with the Lamb? Advent calls us into a darkness, into a brokenness that we are not comfortable with. But the deeper the darkness, the brighter the light. The deeper the brokenness, the more God can fill us. Things are worse than you can imagine, but the future is brighter. Let us pray. Lord, help us see that yes, there are enemies, yes, there are wolves out there, but the wolf is also in us. Help us to forgive our enemies, help us forgive our wolves, and help us, Lord, to confess those habits that we have, those thoughts that we have that betray the sin that is in our own heart. We have so much work to do in this world, Lord, but help us to do so as lambs, through and through. Jesus, you have shown us that it is possible. Even if we're crucified, even if we die doing it, there is a way to not bare our teeth, to not sharpen our claws, but to sacrificially live in a way that brings hope and brings peace. Help us to do that, Lord, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. We will move to communion. And